Hello and welcome. I'm AJ.
I'm Alex.
And this is NTVN, New Tech Vintage Nerds.
Today we're going to talk about.
Generative AI.
Oh, you're going to talk about generative AI.
Oh, yes, I am.
But first,
roll that intro.
Go for it.
Before I go way off on Gen AI, what did you print last week?
What did I print last week? Well, actually, the last 3 prints I did were more or less plastic spaghetti.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think that. Well, honestly, I think that it's not the printer or the filament, but I think the design is a bit flaky. But actually, the last thing I did print is a ceiling mount for a motion sensor that I will mount in my hallway.
Okay, that's nice. And just with PETG or?
That is black PETG, yes.
Oh,
and
cool.
It actually came out quite nice. And I've fitted the sensor, and it fits perfectly. So eventually, when the light fixture is ready, because I'll have to make it myself from so make a wooden cove along the ceiling, and we'll have spotlights in it, and in the middle it will have the sensor mounted.
Nice.
So basically, what you will see is the little black circle, and then the eye of the sensor poking out, and that is all you will see from the sensor.
Well, I only printed some things for for a friend's Quest 2. There's new head strap with a battery for the Quest 3. Kind of nice because the battery is higher up on your head. So when you want to watch movies on the thing, you don't get annoyed by the battery at the back of your head. So he wants to use the Quest 3 strap on the Quest 2. And apparently some intelligent person made something on Thingiverse. So I printed that in orange PLA, I believe, or PLA plus.
Nice color.
Oh yes.
I actually did publish my first design on Thingiverse. It's the mount for Homie that I showed off last week.
Oh, okay, let's put that in the show notes.
Let's do that. Anyway, we're going to talk about Gen AI, or generative artificial intelligence. Well, you're going to talk about Gen AI because you do a lot with it.
I do.
As far as I know. So what is Gen AI at all?
Gen AI, generative AI, is a computer or a program creating all kinds of fancy stuff based on a large language model that understands your input and is able to do something with that input. So, for example, you can tell the computer, create a picture of a nice flower for my wife for Valentine's Day. And then it will create a picture, and hopefully there's a rose on it for Valentine's Day.
Or some other flower.
Yeah, or Valentine's Day, or a person called Valentine, or a bar with a logo Valentine, because it's all dependent on the input. Because it's neural network, you have to train the computer just like an infant learns. So you start to understand language, and you understand what that language means. So this is an apple, and then you show an apple. This is an orange. When you in the future ask to describe an orange, then you know it because you learn the language and you understand what the picture is that's related to that sentence. The same way goes for the computer, for the large language model, LLM. That large language model understands or is able to determine, because can a computer understand? Is it sentient? Well, probably not. So, but it understands, it can derive what you want from it, and then it creates something. So it can create text or pictures or music or even now video that's almost indistinguishable from filming it yourself.
All right.
So that's pretty cool.
So You've been using Gen AI for quite some time, actually. So how long have you been using Gen AI?
I think I used it before ChatGPT came around, or at least in the publicity. I started doing something with a stable diffusion. That's something that can create images. So I think a year or two, three, perhaps. Well,
Okay.
in the past, I already started with things that people thought then that you gotta have and that you have to understand before you can use neural networks, like the programming language Lisp. It's a well something for another topic. I'm way too
Okay,
old.
let's not mix it. So,
Yeah,
when if it did, the large language model did take quite a high fly in the past, say 1.5 years, specifically after the release of ChatGPT. I think that was version 3, wasn't it?
yeah.
So, how have you experienced the changes? How do you see that the change moving forward when you look back at when you first started with Gen AI in general and ChatGPT specifically, and how it works now?
Yeah, well, when I started, it was more gimmicky. You could generate something with it, but for example, if you try to generate a picture of a human, most of the time there was something wrong, and you could see that it was AI generated. For example, a person had three legs or six fingers, or
Right.
eyes were not at the same height, or uh, too close to each other, and stuff like that. And
Okay.
if you generate a picture of a car, it looks like a toy car instead of a real car. So
Right. Bit more Picasso-like than it
oh
was
yeah, yeah,
actually
absolutely,
real.
yeah. But these days the generation is much better. There are even social media channels that use Gen AI for their person and their pictures. So the whole network, the whole influencing happens with generated images by an AI, and they are indistinguishable, at least if you are not familiar with what is being generated, that these are indistinguishable from real pictures.
Right.
So it's amazing. It's happening fast, and it's happening faster. Like I use Midjourney for image creation these days, and in a year, I think we went from the model 3 to 4 to 5, and we're now at 6, or perhaps it was 1.5 years. And the quality of the image is getting better and better, and the things you can generate are better or are more real. So if you generate a picture of Tokyo night, then it really looks like a Tokyo night in real life, not from the movies or from Mario Karts, for example.
So, what is it that you then generate? I mean, I can imagine that. Well, you can ask everything and anything. Can you give us a couple of concrete examples? What kind of a picture you have AI generate for you?
Well, when I write an article, that's something I use Gen AI as well for, not for the writing, but for the outlining. I want to use pictures that are related to the content. So I tell the I want a picture drawn with charcoal of a well for my last article on the digital cleanup day. I want an image of emails and tweets lying in the streets in black and white. That's one of the things I do. I want it in black and white. So then generates an image of that specific setup.
All right,
Um,
interesting.
I did an article on smart kitchens. Well, then I say um, generate an image based on a house that could look like the house of the Jetsons with Rosie the robot in it, but created in pencil, black and white. So just for the images on the website, as well as I want every article to have a thumbnail. We've done a lot of blogging in the past, so I'm keen on thumbnails in my articles. that are not copyrighted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
So
remember that one.
yeah, so it's pretty easy to create an image that's not copyrighted. Well, officially not copyrighted. The whole other thing on what it learned from the large language model, but that's something for the lawyers. But these kind of things, as well. This podcast, I asked the AI, give me some questions that Alex might ask me about generative AI.
And then he ignores them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's all in the game, isn't it? So, looking at pictures that you generate, right? And you already talked about the copyright thing. Um, if you write an article, I mean, how do you distinguish things that you write yourself from things that generative AI creates, and what's your vision on that?
Um, well,
Because this is a hot topic, right? Especially
yeah,
amongst writers.
yeah, I don't use the AI for the writing part itself. I use the AI to give me ideas on the topics I can write about. For example, I want to do something about home automation. Give me the 50 largest companies and tell me what their products are so that I can write about it. Or if I would write an article on digital cleanup day, how would you break an article up? Well, I know you have to do the introduction and the main and then the kicker or the call to action, but it's nice that somebody wrote out this. You can do this in your introduction and then rewrite it that it's a real my text that's there. So
Right.
I only use it for prompting and guidance. I do, however, use it for translation. I write one of the articles I write in English, one of the articles I write in Dutch, and I could throw them in Google Translate. I could translate them myself, but I'm not lazy. There are the tools for it, so why should I take the time to translate it?
No,
So
that's
the
true. Although what I understand that these engines get more effective and more efficient almost by the day, but I do find that if you have an AI engine translate a document into a different language, it tends to um, let's say miss specific language constructs that you would use when you would be a native speaker, if you understand what I mean.
yeah, well, yes and no. Most yes. If you dump it into Google Translate, I'm not sure how it's this week because I haven't used it in a while, but um, it didn't understand very well. So we all heard in Dutch probably make that the cat wise, a
Yeah,
translation that doesn't mean anything in English, but it does in Dutch.
it does, yes.
If you throw that in ChatGPT, then it makes a real translation on what it would mean in English. So it's not perfect, but it's getting better, and it's better in the nuances of the language.
Yeah, yeah. So it used to ignore that completely, and you now see that with the new generations that it gets better at using different constructs for different languages and polish the language usage a bit. It's not
Yeah,
there yet. It's not quite there yet, but it's getting there.
yeah. And you still have to know the language, in my opinion, because it sometimes makes a mess out of it,
Yeah,
or it condenses your language. So you really have to prompt the engine, what do I want it to do? I want an exact translation, then it will exactly translate it, and then it will say make that the catwise.
yeah, literally.
Yeah, but if you say translate it this in English, keep the context, then it will effectively write the article just in another language.
Yeah.
But if you say, translate it to English and let it sound like Einstein wrote it, then the whole context and the whole language will be more like his research and his papers instead
Right.
of my voice.
Right. More of a scientific.
Yeah, and it's fun to toy with it. I had a question of somebody in a musical group. Can we do something with? I believe it was Mozart. Can we discuss with Mozart about a play that he did? Well, with ChatGPT, you can create an agent. Then you say to the AI, and it's called I don't know what it's called. There's a term for it. Let's call it priming. So you say to the AI, imagine, or from this moment forward, you are Mozart, and you will answer in the way that Mozart did based on his music. And every question you ask him will be related to his language, his life, his time. And the same goes for, I use it for search engine optimization. You are a search engine optimization expert, and everything you do will be in that context. Yeah. So you can ask what tags will work on YouTube, or which tags I shouldn't avoid.
How should we get a bigger audience for this wonderful podcast?
Exactly. Well, it's making great content is every time the answer it gets. So let's do that. So it's interesting. It's a new toy in the toolbox.
So, how does this affect the way you do what you do?
It's easier. I do the same things. The writing I do myself. The thinking, the creative work I still do myself. But the time between the things will get shorter. So I know for the podcast I have to make sure that all the silence is removed. Well, I use AI for it because I can do it myself, but why should I if I have a tool for that? I need a great introduction. Well, I can do that myself, but why not let AI do the transcript, the writing out of the podcast, and then I can say summarize it and make a great first sentence for YouTube. I
Yeah.
mean, you get lazy, or you could say I have time to do real preparation for what we are going to talk about.
We tend to be lazy, to be honest.
No, we tend to be effective. We use the
Economical.
tool and the time that we have to do the things we do.
Yeah, and economical.
Yeah, yeah,
So, um, using Gen AI, right? In I mean, it doesn't replace your own creativity, but it enhances it more, sort of less. So,
yeah.
would you say that with Gen AI, you would come to different solutions for a problem or something you want to achieve instead of not using Gen AI? Would you come? Would it be a different outcome?
I'm not sure if it would be a different outcome, but a outcome with a higher quality. I mean, I can do Photoshop and I can create pretty nice pictures with it, but using Gen AI for it, it's the quality is better. It's more of a complete picture. When I want to do an article, I already have the outline in my head. This is what I want to convey. This is what I want to tell, and then I ask the AI to help me get that across. Could I do it myself? Yes. Do it differently? No, because I'm stubborn and it's going to be my own way of writing.
Then again, that makes it your message.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't. the Gen AI influence diminish your influence, your style, your personality into the content that you create?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, because of course you can let AI do everything, create the whole picture, create the whole article, create the whole video these days, but where do I stop? Where does the AI start in that sense? I tell the AI this is the prompt and go forth and procreate. Well, things that come to mind are Skynet and Genesis from movies. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I really do think that we as creators, we as professionals, still have an image in our head. Like, one of the things is, what was it called? The tale of two creations. First we think of it, then we make it. Um, but the part is getting more. First we imagine it, then we're helped by AI to fine tune it and then create it.
Yeah. I get where you're going with this. So, totally different question and not on the script. Um,
What else is new?
what else is new? Exactly. I mean, otherwise it would be AI, right?
Yep.
But how do you go about this? So you sit down, you want to write an article, and what tools do you use? How do you go about this? Where do you go? What is it you use?
Okay. First, I use Obsidian. We talked about that last time. My main tool for writing is Obsidian. I have a library with ideas that I want to write about,
And
and
you filled that yourself. That library
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
your
yeah.
brain dump.
Yeah. So I have Obsidian always open, and I made a button on the screen. This is a new idea. Then it creates a template, or off a template, it creates a new file with. It's an idea. This is the priority. It's most of the time medium, because then I can go up and I can go down. Um, then I've like five priorities, and the fifth is one day someday. Like, well, this is interesting, but I don't want to write about it in the near future. But it's still an idea to explore when I have the time and everything else is depleted.
I'll look at it someday.
And I put it somewhere on the left part of my screen so that I don't see it that often, because I want to focus on my priorities. And when I go to write something based on those ideas, then I go into, well, research. Then I go browse on the internet, and there is where I use AI. An article I wrote about smart kitchens. What kind of things you have in a kitchen? I know a couple, but what more is there to do in a smart kitchen? So I came out with smart lighting, timers, and stuff like that. And I asked AI, what am I missing? Are there any more topics? Well, obviously, there's your appliances, and um, there's the timers I already mentioned, but there was something else like the electronic cookbook where you do your recipes in, or collaboration with recipes. I think, well, nice idea, but I don't want it in my smart kitchen. And I didn't write about it. So then I write the article, and I have an image in mind that I want to have as the article header and thumbnail. Then I go to Midjourney, and I start typing out what I have in my mind for that article. Imagine a kitchen from the Jetsons, blah blah.
Including Rosie.
Yeah. And then I really sit down and start writing. And if I don't have the structure in my head, introduction, main part, call to action, then I say to AI, ChatGPT in this case, give me an outline where I focus on how the quality of life will improve with a smart kitchen. And then it dumps something in Obsidian, and then I can write that article. So I really do the writing myself.
So it
And
gives you a sort of a slog,
yeah,
and you build from there.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
And then I paste it into what's it called? Visual Studio Code, because I have static website and it will generate pages, and then I translate it again with AI.
Right. Why do you translate it?
Um, I primarily write in Dutch, but I see that some articles I write about, especially in the past about Loxon and Luxberry and disabling Wi-Fi on Sonos, that there's a lot of interest for those kind of articles.
Oh, by the way, we talked about Loxon and Loxberry last episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Link.
In the show notes. So that's why I translate, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what people want to read, because the articles are great, but then they need to be accessible, and I totally accept that not everybody talks or reads Dutch, but I don't want to do it in. Yeah, I know it's surprising,
It is.
but
It's a universal
I
language.
sorry.
It's a universal language.
It is. No, but I don't want to write only in English, because then I'm missing the parts in Dutch. Yeah. So I could have easily made off with let Google Translate do the automatic translation, but well, I don't like those translations.
Right. So up to now, we have Obsidian that you use for writing. We have the web page that you use to create the slugs. So that was Midjourney.
Yeah, Mid Journey.
Midjourney. There you
Yeah,
go.
those are create the real images.
Okay. And ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So those
No,
are the tools you use.
yeah. I'm thinking if I miss anything. No, not really. Yeah,
Yeah.
Google. Wow, Google obviously to research and see if
Yeah. I
other
mean,
articles are.
I don't count a browser and an internet connection because those are fairly obvious, right? So you
Yeah,
need those for access anyway.
for some of my writing, I use, and I'm looking at the left of my screen. Mac Whisper. Um,
Whisper.
yeah, Mac
Okay.
Whisper makes a transcript of a MP3. So um,
All right.
when we do this podcast, I export it as video and MP3, and the MP3 goes into Mac Whisper. It creates an automatic transcript.
It sort of tries to interpret what we're saying.
Yeah, and it fails miserably. I'm not sure if that's our pronunciation of the English or that our tech jargon is too much. But then it creates a transcript, and then I can ask Mac Whisper, what did we talk about? What are the highlights? What are the numbers that we're talking about? And then it spits out those things, and then I can write the accompanying article or the headlines for Mastodon and Twitter. Sorry, X. And then I still need to create the fancy lines and the call to action, but the hard work, the listening to us going on and on about photography, for example, that does Meg Whisper, and then I can read it and summarize it.
All right. So, coming to a close on this, what do you think is most important for people to know about generative AI? Because there are a lot of misunderstandings out there.
Yeah. I think it's important that you brush up on your knowledge about Gen AI. You could say, I know nothing about it and I don't want to know anything about it, but it will be used by people to do interesting things. It will be used in your day job. It will be used in your personal life. If it's not the speech assistant or the like Google, what's it called?
Art.
Google Assistant and SIRI,
Or
everywhere.
she who shall not be named from Amazon.
Exactly. So it will be used. And if you don't use it, it means that somebody else is using it and that your value gets lower on the market. So if you use it in your personal life, you train yourself for your job. So I think that's one of the most important things. Next to you can create fantastic stuff, and why pay somebody else a large sum of money if you can do it yourself? I
Very
mean, I
true as
hope that
well.
they pay me, but now the whole knowing, prompting, and real how do I ask something from the computer, that's getting more and more important.
It is going to be the new Google, isn't it?
Yeah, uh,
Basically, I mean,
yeah, and
whoever wins the artificial intelligence battle, if you can speak of that, is the one who will be the next Google.
oh yeah, absolutely, and it changes the way we we search or we learn. Like now, you need to know what do you want to find. I mean, it's about searching, but you have to find something. So you
Asking the right questions to a search engine is something you have to be taught.
yeah, and nowadays you ask what Gen AI tools are available. That you can ask that on Google, and Google throws something out. Well, you got obviously got to use Gemini. That's the one from Google these days. But you could also ask, give me on an AI, give me the tools, list them in order, and give me a list of who is paying for that tool with investors. So it gives you more power to really do something with the data you get.
Right. Well, closing off, I think it's quite interesting, specifically the way it influences your writing and the way you do your creative process. So thanks for sharing that.
Well,
And you also have a top tip on that.
yes, because you can do a lot with prompting. You can create your own agent. You can do a lot of stuff on the OpenAI website for ChatGPT. But there's also a tool that's called Typing Mind. And Typing Mind makes it possible that you can organize all your prompts and keep the history of things locally. And there's even a self-hosted tool, or sorry, a private tool. Obviously, you've got to pay for it, but then it makes it easier to do these kind of things. So it's a great tool. Let me see what I wrote about it, or what the AI wrote about it. Now it's an UI for JetGPT. It has chat history, search, folders, and it uses the API directly. So no more going to the website. Just install the local web app, and it starts using the API. It's quicker. You can select any API, any large language model. So you can use Gemini if you got API for that. You can use um, Claude and the ChatGPT turbos, and you can easily select those. But you got to pay for it. I don't exactly remember what it costs, but I will put it in the show notes when I find it. So that's a great tip, I think.
All right. Thanks very much.
And next time will be about PF Sense, and I'm not going to talk about it because Alex has already put his home through the test. So
That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching or listening. See you next time.